Let's start on the Rockets side. How impressive, Nick, was James Harden's night last night?
Well, I know because James Harden now has 4 career 50-point triple-doubles, people might be starting to take it for granted. But some context, as of 2.5 years ago, in all of NBA history, playoffs and regular season, there had been 6 total 50-point triple-doubles. James Harden has 4 since last Christmas, or since 2 Christmases ago. He also has a 60-point triple-double mixed in there. When he's playing like this, you don't have to play at this level. Well, this is how he wins the MVP, comes in second 2 other times. The ability to get to the line, the ability to hit that step-back 3 while having the ability to distribute the ball like an actual point guard, even though he's more of a natural shooting guard. I mean, how did the Rockets look like the Rockets of last year?
Yeah.
Harden had his game like last year, where that he had mini games similar to this en route to winning the MVP. Chris Paul also played better. They hit 15 threes, shooting 45% from 3, and they got to the line at an astronomical rate. That was their method last season en route to 65 wins. You can't, of course, expect Harden to do this every night. He was the best player on the court by a wide margin, particularly in the fourth quarter. But the Rockets looked like last year's Rockets for the first time all season.
Harden was very, very special. You talked about the 50-point games. Very, very rare are we going to be able to see the 50-point triple-doubles. But Harden, how special was it? It was a night that now him and Wilt Chamberlain are the only 2 people to ever score multiple games of 50 against the Lakers. So when you look at NBA history, it speaks for something. Also history against the Lakers. He had a 50-point game last year. But LeBron brings up a great point as far as the free throw shooting, because it wasn't as if the Rockets shot a whole bunch more free throws than the Lakers did. They only shot 5 more free throws, but they made 12 more. So LeBron, his bad free throw shooting, 2 of 6. All right, because you can boil the game down to a lot. But the free throw shooting and the inability for the Lakers to be able to play any good defense, the lowest point total in a quarter was 28 points. You're not going to be able to beat the elite teams in the West if that's the least amount of points they're going to score in a quarter. So the free throw shooting is one thing. Josh Hart, you have to know Harden better than that. Some of the fouls on Harden, they were idiotic as far as fouling him behind the 3-point line. Even when he's at 30 feet, you have to be able to give him room to be able to land. So the Lakers didn't even have to go about defending him the right way. He had a tremendous night.
So you mentioned that Chris Paul stepped up last night. Is part of the reason the Rockets have struggled this season then because James Harden hasn't had much help most of the way?
Oh, I'd say it's the biggest reason. The biggest reason is that Chris Paul, in addition to some of the losses this offseason and the defense going from the 6th overall defense to outside of the top 15, the biggest reason is the offense has gone from 1 or 2 outside of the top 10 because Chris Paul has been a shell of himself. Like, the people in Houston are very concerned about the 4-year, $160 million contract Chris Paul got this offseason. They signed that knowing year 4 of that was going to be a bad contract. Year 3 might be a bad contract.
They also thought they'd have a championship to go with it, so then you're willing to eat it.
Yeah.
If he's willing to bring a championship, if he can bring a championship to this city, man, we're willing to overpay for him at the end of his career. But now, offensively, it's challenged for him. He's not a superstar on the offensive end of the court.
And that's the key, right? Like, they signed it knowing year 4 was going to be bad, but year 1 will be great. And we'll see about 2 and 3. Year 1 thus far, you were thinking, oh, my God. Even if he doesn't deteriorate any further from this is a problem. And last night he wasn't awesome, but he hit 3 threes. He had 9 assists. He was in control of the game when he was out there. And the Rockets hit their threes, and as you mentioned, they couldn't stop Harden from getting to the line. Yes, some were bad fouls, but both teams were terribly frustrated with the officials. Nene got thrown out. Kuz got a tech.
At one point, the Lakers were actually holding their hands behind their back.
But the thing is this, Harden, and it's one of the reasons he tends to struggle a bit in the postseason when they call the game a little bit differently. You know who you're playing. You're playing a guy who over the last half-decade has gotten to the line more than any other player in the league by an enormous margin. This is a huge part of his game, is his ability to draw fouls. And I know they've scouted it. They play the Rockets 4 times every year. Like, they didn't seem prepared for it, which was odd.
The team that you saw play last night, is that a team that can turn things around and actually maybe get some traction going here in the next
Rockets?
Couple weeks?
Oh, no. They missed their bench. They can't score because they're playing a style I mean, they're not going to be able to maintain it. They don't have enough scores. I mean, they can't score 125 a night. Harden can't get you 50 a night. And who else are going to be those other guys? Typically, that's not the case. Nick brings out a great point. They're not one of the top 10 most efficient offenses. And when they're not that, they don't have a chance to be an elite team. We thought defensively they'd be around the middle of the pack. Last year, they were in the top 5.
They were 6th, yep.
Yeah, they were 6th. So that right there, that was phenomenal. It didn't get them a championship because Chris Paul ends up getting hurt. They have not nearly approached those numbers, offensive end or on the defensive end.
Remember, a few weeks ago, Daryl Morey was offering 4 first-round picks for Jimmy Butler. I say that to say this. The reason a win like last night's important is if the Rockets can just stay within grasping distance, I think Daryl will make a move before the deadline. It's not going to be 4 first-round picks for a player of Jimmy Butler's caliber, but I don't think they're done upgrading the roster because they know their window is this year and next year because of the contract associated with Chris Paul. So what they couldn't have happened was fall out of contact with those other teams in the Western Conference. They can play around 500 through February or up to February. Then I think you'll see the team get a jolt via the trade deadline.
Only they still had Trevor Ariza.
Maybe they can trade for Amari Cooper.
There you go. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.